What's going on YouTube? Kevin here with a video just to let you guys know what you can expect from Apple tomorrow on Wednesday, September 12th of 2012. That's right, the day is already here quickly enough that we figure out what Apple's going to do with their product lines of iPhones and iPods. Of course, there are some other things to talk about and a lot to get to it, so let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is something that is very simple and I guess it hasn't had a lot of hype about it because there really isn't a lot to talk about it. It is iOS 6. Now, of course, this has been in the hands of developers ever since WWDC of 2012, and I've seen a lot of videos and I'm pretty underwhelmed that Apple hasn't really done a lot with the operating system. Of course, they could have changed that with a last-minute Gold Master update, but I highly doubt it's going to be anything fascinating. So that's that. We can probably expect that to be released either on the day of September 12th, which would be tomorrow, I guess relating to the time of this video, and it should be either free or $10. But I'm pretty sure Apple's going to keep the price of free for their other users that are not tied down to a data plan or a cellular contract. So expect that to happen pretty soon, either if not tomorrow, sometime around between the 12th and the 21st. So you should be expecting iOS 6 within that time range and should be around the price of free. So one thing I almost forgot to mention is that iOS 6 could have some redesigned things. I didn't really think about this until I looked at my notes and thought, hey, I forgot about this. But the Yerba Buena Center has this giant image on the front of it, and this is what it looks like if you haven't seen it. It has a bunch of random colors on it, and there's an Apple logo in the middle, of course. And someone with a really keen eye noticed that, hey, if you were to squish this image down and compress it, you'll notice that the colors aren't really so random. They actually form iOS icons. You can see there's a music app, 2 of them I believe. There's an iTunes app, a Game Center app, Safari app, and some other ones that we can't quite make out for sure. But that could be something that Apple is redesigning in this conference in iOS 6, and it could be something that could surprise us. Now, people have had iOS 6 in their hands, the developer versions, for a while, and they haven't really noticed anything groundbreaking. So I could be wrong about this, but I'm hoping, at least, that these apps will be redesigned. So the next order of business I'm going to be talking about are the iPods. Now, the iPods have kind of been silenced a little bit, mainly because the iPhone 5 has been hyped up so much, and that's what everyone's been talking about for the longest time. However, we do have some evidence that Apple's going to be redesigning pretty much their whole product line of iPods. Starting off with the iPod Shuffles, we're going to see a really minor revision, whatever that might be. There has been a small change in the code name that Apple calls their products or refers them to, and no one really knows, but they can't really change much with the Shuffle because it's just a Shuffle's like this big or whatever. So expect a small change, maybe new colors, maybe different capacities, whatever, but small change on that end. The Nano end is something that's going to be pretty interesting if this rumor holds true. Now, if you guys haven't seen it, this is a mock-up of what a potentially redesigned iPod Nano would look like. Apple seems to have a problem with getting a consistent form factor for their iPods. If you looked at the history of the iPod Nano, it went from this really small thing to slightly bigger to square for the 3rd generation. The 4th and 5th were these tall, slender things, and then the 6th generation is the small square that it is today. However, the 7th generation iPod Nano, which is what should be coming out tomorrow, it looks like it should be a mix between an iPod Mini and an iPod Touch, which is really interesting, and I'm not sure if Apple's going to go through with this, but I wouldn't doubt it if they would. And a few reasons, because obviously if it's cheaper, people are more willing to buy it, and it might be like a gateway drug to the rest of the iOS devices that use the touchscreen things like the iPod Touch or the iPhone or the iPad. So it's really interesting that it could have that touchscreen and the home button form factor. It looks a little bit odd and out of place, but Apple could make it work. They make a lot of things work, and I'm actually kind of expecting for it or hoping for it because it's just something that's really unique. I don't know, I just kind of want to see what Apple will do with it if they can actually pull it off. So that's that. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about are the iPod Touches. Of course, these are very similar to the iPhone, but a lot of people complain that, hey, when it first released, everyone thought the iPod Touch was seriously an iPhone without the phone, but obviously that wasn't the case. The first generation iPod Touch didn't have a speaker, first and foremost. It didn't have volume rocker buttons. It didn't have Bluetooth. It didn't have a lot of things. And a lot of people quickly realized that, hey, the iPod Touches need upgrading to become the younger brother or cousin to the iPhone. And Apple seems to be doing that with this. Now, we don't know for sure, of course, because these are all rumors, but speculating, if I can say that word correctly, see this image here? This is a supposedly leaked front panel for a new generation iPod Touch. And how do we know? Well, there's only one cutout on the front, and that's really for the FaceTime camera. And if it were an iPhone, it would have the earpiece and the ambient light sensors and all this sort of thing. So this is a leaked front panel for the new generation iPod Touch, would be the 5th generation. And what else is this product going to hold? Well, there are rumors that it's going to get the A5 chip that's currently in the iPhone 4S, so it should speed it up. I know the iPod Touch 4 is really slow, okay? Even though it has the same processor as the iPhone 4, which in and of itself is a fast phone, the iPod Touch is really slow, and that's because of the RAM that's in it. Just the UI experience is a little bit laggy because it doesn't have enough RAM like the iPhone 4 does. So it should have an A5 processor, which shouldn't really surprise anyone considering that that's how they are progressing, it seems, with the processors. And we're expecting that should be a little bit faster. It should be a little bit taller, and probably the process probably correlated with the taller screen so that it can display beautiful 16:9 resolution things like videos and have nice images for your graphics and stuff. So A5 chip like the iPhone 4S currently has should be expected of that. It also There's a rumor saying that Apple might split the iPod Touch line and make it into two. There should be like a high-end iPod Touch and a low-end iPod Touch for they're going to keep supposedly the iPod Touch 4 as it is as the low-end or intro-level model, and then the new one with a 4-inch screen and the upgraded chip and all that stuff is supposed to be the high-end model. Now, what do I think of this? I don't really think this is a good idea in any way, and I don't think Apple's going to go through with it. First of all, how are you going to name these devices, okay? Like iPod Touch Big or Macro or whatever. It just doesn't seem like it would work out well, and I don't think Apple's going to do it. And if they were to like structure the same iPod, well, I don't think they would. It's just not simple, okay? So if anything, I think they would just update it and just have one model. I don't think they'll have two tiers. That just seems a bit ridiculous. So that's that. So now we're moving on to the star of the show. We're going to be talking about the iPhone 5 now and what you guys can expect from that. Now, as I mentioned in the first part of this video, the iPhone 5 has probably been the most leaked phone that Apple has ever had. And it's probably embarrassing for them because they won't have a lot of stuff that's completely shocking to the public when they do release it, if the rumors are true. But a lot of these rumors seem to confirm each other from a lot of different sources, a lot of different websites. A lot of people have different parts. A lot of people have various information from inside sources, and we even have a video of a pretty much fully functioning iPhone 5. And it's really weird that we have this, considering that the iPhone 4 was found in the bar, and iPhone 4S, I believe, was found in a bar as well. And the iPhone 5, we pretty much have a working model that someone snuck out of the factory or something like that. But what we can expect from the iPhone 5, you guys have probably heard this over and over again, so I'll try to go over this really quickly. But supposed to see a 4-inch screen that has 16:9 resolution, better for YouTube videos, stuff like that, and also better for, since it's going to maintain the same width, but it's going to be taller to have that 16:9 resolution, it's going to be nicer with apps that use feed-style information, like Twitter or Facebook, where you have a scrolling timeline or something like that. We're also expecting the iPhone 5 to be thinner. It's supposed to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 millimeters. The iPhone 4S right now is currently around 9-ish millimeters. So 2 millimeter difference, which might not seem that huge in the real world. I mean, 2 millimeters is not big, but to be able to cram all the stuff that Apple does in their phones in an even smaller package, it's quite amazing. So that's also something we can expect, a thinner iPhone 5. Also, you guys have probably seen this too. This is a picture of the back panel of a supposed put together iPhone 5, and it looks like it's made of has a two-tone back. And this is supposed to be because the main frame of the iPhone 5 is made of a unibody liquid design. Okay, and that's supposed to make it stronger. It's supposed to have better antenna reception because supposedly if Apple does use the whole thing as an antenna gate won't be a real problem. We can also see that the FaceTime camera has been moved to the front and center of the device. It's right on top of the earpiece, right in the dead center, unlike the somewhat size shifted one that's currently on the iPhone 4S. So you can see from that image right there that the iPhone 5's FaceTime camera should be slightly more towards the middle. Whether that's supposed to be a higher resolution than the current VGA quality camera, I'm not so sure. I doubt it. That might be coming in a future phone. But this is what the front panel of the iPhone 5 looks like. We also have more redesigns. The headphone jack is supposed to move from the top of the device to the bottom of the device, and this is supposed to be easier so that when you do listen to music, you have your headphones, you can just shove your phone in your pocket, and the minute you pull it out, it's already facing the right way. You don't have to do some weird flip with your hand or flip the phone to get your phone in the right orientation. So that's nice, and I really do like that. Now, we also at the bottom have a redesigned speaker and mic grills. Now, you obviously notice that on the iPhone 4S, they have an evenly cut out slot for both the microphone and the speaker. However, Apple seemed to ditch this, at least in their prototype, or at least this leaked out model, where the one side is a lot bigger than the other. Speaker side, the grills are a lot bigger and wider than the microphone. So that's that. Also, of course, on the bottom we have an 8 or 9 pin connector, which a lot of people seem to be frustrated about. Now, of course, everything does eventually have to change, and Apple is pushing the thinner and smaller and better kind of vibe. And this pretty much has to have happened. You know, if it doesn't happen, it hinders Apple's progress in making their products smaller. But an 8 or 9 pin dock connector is the name of the game here, and Apple is going to be releasing adapters, you bet, so that, you know, everyone who currently has a lot of cables accessories can continue to use them with their brand new iPhone 5. To add to my predictions of the iPhone 5, I also think that we're going to be seeing the same camera. Unfortunately, it's not going to be upgraded to a 10 megapixel camera, at least in my opinion. They just might do something with the sensor or the optics to make it a little bit sharper or a little bit better. But I don't think it's going to be increasing in megapixels, which really isn't the name of the game. I mean, it does sound good on paper, but it doesn't really necessarily mean you get a better image with a 10 megapixel camera than you do with a 8 megapixel camera. So I believe that's going to stay the same. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is the actual processor inside it. Now, there's a good chance that we're going to see the A6 processor chip inside the iPhone 5. It's pretty good reasoning because, you know, the slightly bigger display, you might need a little bit more power to run it, just like how on the iPad 3 they need the A5X chip to power up the extra Retina pixels. So I wouldn't be surprised if we had the A6 chip inside the iPhone 5 or a quad-core A5 chip, which would be pretty weird. But the A5 chip has dual cores, and if the A6 has quad cores, then that's that. But I think it's going to have 4 cores. So that's that. So the performance of the iPhone 5 will probably be unparalleled as well. Whether or not I think they will tack on an extra 12 megabytes of RAM to make it a full gigabyte of RAM, I'm not so sure. I'm going to say no at this point, mainly because I don't think that extra screen real estate, because it's such a small difference in screen real estate, is going to need another 12 megabytes of RAM. They'll probably come in the next release on the iPhone 6 or 5S, I guess it would be called. So with that, this wraps up my video for my predictions of what's going to be happening tomorrow on Wednesday, September 12th of 2012 with Apple at the Yerba Buena Center. Thanks for watching, and before I close this video, I just want to let you guys know that I will be live tweeting the event. I also will be posting it live on Facebook as well. Now, I'm not going to be there myself, but I'm going to be reading a ton of feeds. I'm going to be posting the main things you guys should know about. So if you want to go ahead and like me on Facebook, the link is down below. If you want to go follow me on Twitter, link is down below as well. So go ahead and like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and you guys will be getting the events as they are coming out of Apple's actual keynote. So thanks for watching. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe for more content in the future, and I'll see you guys tomorrow when I live tweet Apple's September 12th event.